I produce. So today in our reading, our read aloud, what we're going to do is we are going to be changing a little bit. So we've been doing nursery rhymes, then we did fables. Now we are going to be reading stories. So what we're going to be reading is a couple of stories for the next couple of days. And some of these stories might be new to you and some might be ones that you've heard before. So stories, there's some differences from fables. So fables were short stories. So stories might be a bit longer. They still have a main character. They still have main events, so the main things that happen in the story. But one big difference is now that there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And so we're going to be looking at a lot of those things. So the beginning, middle, and end, that is called a plot. So it's telling us what happens during the whole story. So you have a couple of jobs while we're reading this. Today we're going to be reading a story called Chicken Little. And your job is, so in this story, Chicken Little makes a silly mistake and gets scared because of it. So your job is to listen and find out what his silly mistake is. Now, it's important to remember that this is just a story. It is called a fiction story. So fiction means that it's made believe. It's made up. So this doesn't really happen. So in the story, you are trying to find out what is his silly mistake. All right. So here we go. One fine morning, Chicken Little went out to the woods. As she walked along, an acorn fell on her head. So this is an acorn. Chicken Little was a silly little chicken, and she often made silly mistakes. Chicken Little thought the acorn was a part of the sky. Chicken Little was so caught by surprise that she worked herself into a tizzy. "Oh dear me," she cried, "the sky is falling. I must go and tell the king." On her way to see the king, Chicken Little met Henny Penny. "Henny Penny, the sky is falling," cried Chicken Little. "How do you know?" asked Henny Penny. "A piece of it fell on my poor head," Chicken Little said, rubbing her poor little noggin from the memory of it. "Then let us go and tell the king," said Henny Penny, who now felt quite worried as well. Is the sky really falling? Maybe not. It's just the acorn, right? So Henny Penny and Chicken Little ran along and they met Goosey Lucy. "Goosey Lucy, the sky is falling," cried Henny Penny. "How do you know?" asked Goosey Lucy. "A piece of it fell on my poor head," said Chicken Little. Goosey Lucy looked at Henny Penny, who nodded in agreement. "Then let us go and tell the king," said Goosey Lucy, who could not help but believe her friends. So Goosey Lucy, Henny Penny, and Chicken Little hurried along until they met Ducky Lucky. "Ducky Lucky, the sky is falling," cried Goosey Lucy. "How do you know?" asked Ducky Lucky. "A piece of it fell on my poor head," said Chicken Little. Henny Penny and Goosey Lucy stood nodding their heads, wide-eyed, next to Chicken Little. Ducky Lucky looked at her three friends and became worried because they were so worried. "Then let us go and tell the king," said Ducky Lucky. So Ducky Lucky, Goosey Lucy, Henny Penny, and Chicken Little ran along until they met Turkey Lurkey, who was certainly the biggest of the birds. "Turkey Lurkey, the sky is falling," cried Ducky Lucky. "How do you know?" said Turkey Lurkey. "A piece of it fell on my poor head," said Chicken Little. Henny Penny, Goosey Lucy, and Ducky Lucky stood behind Chicken Little, flapping their wings with worry. "Then let us go and tell the king," said Turkey Lurkey, for who was he to disagree with four scared friends? So the five feathered friends ran along until they met Foxy Loxy. "Foxy Loxy, the sky is falling," cried Turkey Lurkey. "Oh, is that so?" said the sly Foxy Loxy, who knew better but pretended to believe the five trembling birds. So the word sly means to be sneaky in a secretive and clever way. "If the sky is falling, you'd better keep safe in my den, and I will go and tell the king for you." A den is the fox's home. Do you think that they should go into the fox's den? Well, let's find out. So Chicken Little, Henny Penny, Goosey Lucy, Ducky Lucky, and Turkey Lurkey followed Foxy Loxy into his den. The dust in the den made Chicken Little sneeze. Achoo! The force of the sneeze made Chicken Little come back to her senses. That means that she stopped being silly and really thought about what happened. Wait, cried Chicken Little. Birds are supposed to stay away from foxes. Henny Penny, Goosey Lucy, Ducky Lucky, and Turkey Lurkey looked at each other in amazement. You're right, they cried. And so the 5 feathered friends ran out of the cave and never went back there again. And from that day on, they thought very carefully before believing that the sky was falling again. So, was the sky really falling in the story? No, it was just an acorn that fell on Chicken Little's head, and then she thought that the sky was falling. So, that is our story for today. So, this is our introduction to stories. So, they're a little bit longer than nursery rhymes. They're longer than fables. And they have a beginning, a middle, and an end in them. So I hope you enjoyed our first story of Chicken Little.